George R.R. Martin's universe contains enough lore to fuel dozens of spin-offs without ever touching the main narratives we know. While House Targaryen arrived in Westeros as conquerors from across the sea, the Starks have a far more ancient and mysterious origin story that stretches back into the mists of prehistory. The roots of House Stark extend approximately 12,000 years into the past, making them descendants of the first men who crossed into Westeros from Essos via the land bridge known as the Arm of Dorne. According to ancient texts, these people may have originated from the shores of what was once the Silver Sea, where the Fisher Queens ruled. Their western migration brought them into direct conflict with the continent's original inhabitants. When the first men arrived, they encountered the Children of the Forest, dwelling in the vast woodlands. The newcomers began clearing forests for settlements and farmland, burning and cutting down the weirwood trees with their carved faces. These sacred trees were central to the children's religion, and through them, their green seers could allegedly see across great distances. The systematic destruction of these groves sparked a conflict that would last for centuries. The children possessed powerful magic, but lacked the size, strength, horses, and metal weapons of the invaders. Despite calling upon wolves, mammoths, and eagles to fight alongside them, they gradually lost ground. In desperation, their green seers employed their most devastating magic, shattering the Arm of Dorne and flooding the land bridge. Eventually, both sides recognized the futility of eternal warfare and forged a lasting peace agreement. This treaty marked the beginning of the Age of Heroes, a period lasting thousands of years during which kingdoms rose and fell, leaving behind only legends and ruins. Among these legendary figures emerges Brandon the Builder, the supposed founder of House Stark. While some maesters dismiss him as mythological rather than historical, the Starks insist their lineage traces directly to this remarkable individual. Brandon earned his epithet through two monumental construction projects. First, he built Winterfell itself, reportedly with assistance from giants who still roamed the north freely in those days. Second, and perhaps more significantly, he constructed the Wall. For this massive undertaking, Brandon journeyed to a secret location to meet with the Children of the Forest. Initially unable to understand their speech, described as resembling singing stones, wind through trees, or rain on water, he eventually learned to communicate with them and secured their cooperation in raising the Great Ice Barrier. Brandon the Builder's son, also named Brandon, became the first to bear the surname Stark. The family's symbol of royal power was an ancient bronze circlet covered in First Men runes and crowned with 9 iron points shaped like swords. For thousands of years, the Starks ruled as kings of winter from Winterfell until Aegon's conquest forced them to surrender their crown and become mere lords. The figure known as the Night's King represents one of the darker chapters in Northern history. Unlike the show's portrayal, in the books, this title belonged to the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who lived roughly 8,000 years before the main story. According to legend, this commander saw a woman with skin pale as the moon, eyes blue as stars, and flesh cold as ice. He pursued her, and in giving her his seed, surrendered his soul. Bringing this corpse woman to the Night Fort, he declared himself Night's King and made her his queen. Through sorcery, he dominated the other brothers of the Watch and secretly sacrificed humans to the others. For 13 years they ruled until Brandon Stark of Winterfell allied with Joramun, the king beyond the Wall, to overthrow him. Afterward, all records were destroyed and his very name forbidden, a storyline HBO has yet to explore despite its dramatic potential. The Boltons of the Dreadfort proved to be the Starks' most persistent northern rivals. They refused to acknowledge the descendants of Brandon the Builder, leading to a blood feud that claimed countless lives. The Boltons twice captured and burned Winterfell during their wars. Though it's difficult to pinpoint exactly when the Dreadfort finally submitted, historians believe it occurred roughly 1,000 years before the main timeline. Even then, according to old legends, the Boltons rebelled again when the Targaryens stripped the Starks of their royal status. Consolidating control over the entire north required the Starks to subjugate numerous other kingdoms. They conquered the Hill Kings, the Marsh Kings, and various other realms, destroying several noble houses forever in the process. The Greenstones beyond the Wall warred with the Starks for generations, About 3,000 years before Aegon's conquest, wildlings under the brothers Gendel and Gorn discovered caves leading beneath the wall and brought their army through. Stark forces, together with the Umbers and Night's Watch, surrounded and annihilated them. The Ironborn of the Iron Islands conducted raids on the stony shore for centuries, creating ongoing tensions. They once held Bear Island after seizing it from House Foot. King Roderick Stark reclaimed the island through single combat and granted it to House Mormont. The identity of Roderick's opponent remains unknown, though maesters suspect it was one of the Iron Islands' kings. The port of White Harbor held strategic importance throughout the ages. Pirates and slavers repeatedly attempted to establish footholds at the mouth of the White Knife River. King John Stark drove out raiders and built Wolf's Den Fortress to defend his eastern territories. Later, during the reign of Edric Stark, called Snowbeard, Stepstone slavers exploited the elderly king's weakness and captured the castle. Brandon Ice Eyes, Edric's great-grandson, eventually retook Wolf's Den. He sacrificed the captured slavers to the old gods, hanging them from weirwood branches within the godswood. When Aegon Targaryen invaded Westeros, King Torrhen Stark assembled 30,000 men and marched south. At Moat Cailin, his brother Brandon Snow volunteered to infiltrate the enemy camp and assassinate Aegon's 3 dragons. Torrhen refused this plan, instead sending maesters to negotiate. After these talks, he knelt before Aegon and surrendered his crown. In return, Aegon named him Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. Many viewed Torrhen's submission as cowardice, but he was no fool. Reports of draconic destruction at Harrenhal and the Field of Fire convinced him that resistance would only bring annihilation to his people. His pragmatic decision preserved House Stark and the North itself. During the reign of King Jaehaerys I, whom we glimpsed in House of the Dragon's prologue, the young monarch toured the 7 kingdoms with his court, queen, and 6 dragons. He visited Winterfell on friendly terms, while his wife, Alysanne, made the journey to the Wall, much as Tyrion Lannister would do centuries later. The Stark lineage contains far more documented history than House Targaryen, spanning millennia of wars, alliances, and survival. A series exploring their complete saga would complement the existing Targaryen-focused content perfectly. The wars against the Boltons, the submission of the North's kingdoms, the construction of the Wall, and encounters with the Night's King all offer rich material for adaptation. What makes the Starks compelling isn't just their antiquity, but their evolution from legendary builder kings to pragmatic rulers who understood when to fight and when to bend. Their story is the story of the North itself, harsh, ancient, and enduring. In a franchise expanding through multiple spin-offs, the Chronicles of House Stark deserve their moment in the spotlight. Drop a like if you want to see HBO greenlight a Stark-focused prequel series, and subscribe to Zaldraz's Exio for more deep dives into Westerosi history.